Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we're discussing the reunion between Sanguinius and Ferrus Manus. A spoiler warning to begin, as the events we're discussing today are from the Warhammer 40k Horus Heresy novel, The End and the Death Volume 2, by author Dan Abnett. As always, I really recommend you read the stories for yourself first, without spoilers, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. And with that said, let's just jump straight in. Okay, so there are countless meetings and interactions between the Primarchs that we each want to see. Brothers who are perhaps stated to be great friends, yet we've seen little of any interaction between them in the lore. Or maybe Primarchs who couldn't be more different, and it's an interesting topic to wonder just how they'd get on. And Sanguinius and Ferrus Manus most definitely fall into that later category. The Angel and the Gorgon couldn't be more polarising in nature. Sanguinius warm and welcoming, Ferrus cold and introverted. Yet despite that clash of personalities, similarities were of course still there. Honesty, resolve, tenacity, and of course they were both unquestioningly loyal. For me, it was always one of the biggest losses of the Heresy series that we never got to see these two Primarchs interact with each other. However, then came The End and the Death Volume 2, and a reunion between these two brothers in the most of unexpected places, aboard the Vengeful Spirit. Though we never got to see Ferrus speak with Sanguinius in life, here, as the Angel approached his fateful duel with the Warmaster, we would see the apparent spirit of the Gorgon come to his brother. You were a long time coming, but you are here at last. Sanguinius wills at the sound of the voice. He knows it. He knows it all too well. And the sound of it hurts him more than the pain in his side. The huge, plated shadow is staring at him, broad and immense, framed against the feeble light. It steps between the tombs, and he sees its face. "I have been waiting for you," says Ferrus Manus. Now, you want a jaw-dropping surprise. This was absolutely it. If there was one thing I did not expect to see upon the Vengeful Spirit, well then Ferrus Manus was absolutely it. Yet I guess despite the initial shock, in a way it was a kind of poetic appearance. The Angel, as he moved towards his death, greeted by the Primarch whose death really started the Heresy series. The two bookends, if you will, to the saga. The one death that begins it, and the one that ends it. And immediately here, from the very beginning of this surprise greeting, we can see from the Angel's reaction the clues to his previous relationship with the Gorgon. Sanguinius wills at the sound of the voice. He knows it. He knows it all too well. And the sound of it hurts him more than the pain in his side. There's no doubt there. He knows it instantaneously. The little remark of knowing it all too well, letting us know that these brothers do have a history, that they must have spent time together in the past, and more than a fleeting greeting, and that not only that, there was an affection there, something that would elicit the emotional pain of sorrow Sanguinius feels as soon as he realises it is Ferrus's voice. A pain we're told hurts him more than the mortal wound from Angron in his side. Yes, this is Sanguinius, who cared for all of his brothers, But do we really think he'd have that reaction for a Conrad, a Mortarion, heck even a Russ or a Corax? Sure, there would be sorrow, but would it be that cutting? I'm not sure it would. So for all their differences in personality, immediately here, we see the angel regarded Ferrus as a true brother. "You are dead," says Sanguinius carefully. Instinct is telling him to snarl out an accusation of trickery and use the sword in his hands. But something else, something beyond reason, is convincing him that what he is seeing is real. The rows of stone caskets, draped in cloth, the single candle flame almost drowned by the weight of the chamber's shadows. The armoured figure. "I am," says Ferrus softly. His voice is unmistakable, the Medusan accent Sanguinius remembers of old. But it is thin, almost fragile. There is no substance in it. It's not a whisper. There are plenty of those still scratching and rustling in the gloom around them. It is a voice that seems to have carried from far away to reach him, and the distance has robbed it of any weight or volume. "Yet I see you," says Sanguinius. "And you don't trust that," replies Ferrus. Again, there is a weary distance in his tone, as though his words are coming from some remote and desolate place, and not the figure standing in front of Sanguinius at all. The great Gorgon's voice seems to have travelled so far, it is exhausted by the time it passes his lips. "I do not," says Sanguinius. "Good," the Gorgon replies. "Good. The first lesson. You are prepared. Trust nothing. Not even yourself." "Are you here to instruct me?" Sanguinius asks, ready to strike in an instant. "No," Ferrus answers. He shakes his head slowly and sadly as he says it. "I don't know how I come to be here, brother. But I know that much. Trust nothing. I was far too trusting, too sure of myself and my strength. Too certain of my anger when my loyalty was impugned." He sighs. "Damn Fulgrim. He thought so little of me. That bastard thought I would break my oaths. He thought my loyalty was weak. My loyalty wasn't my weakness, brother. My anger was. I acted so hastily, provoked by his effrontery." Ferrus looks down. His lips have barely moved during his utterance, and when they have not matched the shape of his words. Sanguinius tightens his grip on his sword, but he knows this isn't an unsynced pict feed. It's solid. It's corporeal. What then? A phantasm conjured by the fever of his own injuries? Some never-born incarnation? Something with his dead brother's face? He looks back at Sanguinius. There is a dreadful pain contained in his silver eyes. Pain and longing. It's a look that speaks of intense anger, and of agony barely held in check. So you get the impression there's a definite torment in death for Ferrus here, far from a peaceful release. A combination of lasting anger and a mourning regret. And we're also told of how the silver of Ferrus's hands has seemingly spread across his body, which appears to be an almost visual representation of this conflict consuming his soul, with Sanguinius feeling his brother's force of will, trying to contain it. Really feeling as if Ferrus is left fighting an eternal battle. And you can see it all spawned from that fateful appeal by Fulgrim, attempting to entice Ferrus to the War Master's side, to betray the Emperor. A betrayal of a brother that in a lot of ways has appeared to consume Ferrus's soul, as well as his life. Damn Fulgrim. He thought so little of me. That bastard thought I would break my oaths. He thought my loyalty was weak. It's a betrayal Ferrus simply could not get over. The brother and best friend he thought knew him best, proving to not know him at all. And we need to remember here, of course Sanguinius never saw Ferrus post Horus's betrayal, having only learnt of his death later. So witnessing a spectre or ghost of his brother here would be unusual enough, but even more so to see him filled with such sorrow, a characteristic the indomitable Iron Hand would never have shown in life. So what a situation for Sanguinius to be in here. There's even a comment where he states, "You look like Ferrus. You sound like him, even smell like him, but you're dead." As if the angel's trying to remind himself, reconfirm it to his disbelieving eyes, trying not to fall into a trap, disarmed by his brother's presence. And their conversation would continue. Ferrus informing Sanguinius that Horus is so infused with the power of chaos and the warp, he has literally summoned Ferrus's soul back from the dead, all simply to impress the angel, just to show that he can, even raising the question of Sanguinius joining him. And this of course raises Sanguinius's doubts, knowing Ferrus would never utter such a thing in life. Yet the apparition reaffirms he'd never want Sanguinius to accept, and he would be disappointed if he did. And having seen clues to the affection and respect Sanguinius had for Ferrus, we then see the clues of them returned by the Gorgon. "I knew we could count on you, Sanguinius," his voice says from somewhere. "You understand." "I do," says Sanguinius. Does he? Does Horus? "Not even slightly," Ferrus hisses. From somewhere in the darkness beyond him, there is a distant, mangled groan. Sanguinius's sword comes up sharply, into a proffer, ready to fight. "Who is there?" Sanguinius asks. "Who is in pain?" "Everyone," says Ferrus. His lips say the word a second after his voice has. "You are. I am. Pain is in the state of life, and death is no release. You need to know that. Lesson 2. After what we think of as death, the pain is worse. It devours. They devour you forever. They tear your soul. What are you?" Sanguinius says. "I do not think you are my lost brother at all." "I am," he says. His lips form other words, contradictory, and then curl into a grimace. "Horus, in his madness, brought me here for sport, but now I am here by force of will. I will endure this torment and stay here. I wouldn't not be here for you. My intent is to guide you." "Guide me?" Sanguinius asks. "Or lure me?" Screams, distant and shrill, echo through the darkness from far away. Sanguinius cannot imagine what torment could have produced them. He ignores the feeling that the screams are familiar. "Guide you," Ferrus insists. "I am dead, lost, damned. I was headstrong and foolish, but I can teach you, so you can learn from my mistake. When all's said and done, we're brothers, you and I." Regardless of the angel's wariness, his rightful wariness, here the trust Ferrus held in him shines clear. Ferrus knowing they could rely on him, knowing that Sanguinius would never turn. A place of faith that Fulgrim never had in him. And then Ferrus's remark of, "I wouldn't not be here for you," and enduring the torment. Again, all revealing how far Ferrus would go for his brother. Really making me wish we could see the two of them fighting a campaign within the Great Crusade together, seeing why Ferrus has Sanguinius in such regard, and vice versa, seeing Ferrus actually get on with a brother other than Fulgrim. A little backstory and setting the stage for this reunion between the two, adding to the poignancy of the moment. But what a series. What a series this is. Right here, right at the end, we get a moment deepening the development and bond between two characters, showing us that no matter how much story is told, there is always more for us to learn, more to see, more to be revealed. In a moment building to the fateful duel against Horus, where we expected only to see that relationship explored, we got to see a massive development of this bond of brotherhood as well. And they pass on more wailing voices emerging from the dark. Voices Sanguinius begins to realise he recognises, to which Ferrus informs him that it's their brothers, the souls of those also slain, and the mortal remains of those enslaved to the ruinous powers, ascended to demonhood. How they have all come to see this final encounter, and how they all have faith in the angel. So you are assembling here, as at a funeral. You might say, says Ferrus, awake. We have willed ourselves here from torment, or been allowed to come. I don't know, brother, but it could only happen now. This one moment in history. Horus has snapped the rules of creation so fundamentally, even this impossibility is permissible. We are drawn together in respect, drawn by memories, by grief and regret. One thing unites us all. We're here because of him. He did this to us. The distant tremulous shrieks rise in fury, then ebb. Ruin may triumph, says Ferrus, but he shouldn't. We want him to suffer. The first loss pauses and turns to look at Sanguinius. His face is in shadow and half veiled by the drifting dust. You can't win, brother, he says, but you can go down fighting and cut the bastard's throat. For us, we know you can. If anyone can. We've always known. You, the brightest of us, the best of us. The sizzling screams increase in pitch to underscore the words. Kill him for us, brother, says Ferrus. Kill him for us, and for all the damnable things he has done. And so here, right at the very end, the universal love and respect amongst the Primarchs for Sanguinius binds them together. The only one they know who could rival the chosen son, the first found, Horus Lupercal. What a thought and what a moment this is. The souls of the Primarchs slain, the mortal echoes left behind by those enslaved, all crossing whatever boundaries they have to be at this very moment. To support the angel, despite everything, despite it all, knowing all the ruin is thanks to Horus's fall. Man, what a moment this is. The duel between Sanguinius and Horus is emotional and dramatic enough, but when you then consider all of this, all the slain and departed Primarchs coming together, that the souls of those brothers are here, watching, willing Sanguinius on. It just pushes it to a whole other level, making it that moment that just transcends the entire universe. Like Ferrus himself said, he wouldn't not be there. And as if Sanguinius wasn't already fighting for enough, now he is fighting to avenge his brothers as well. And speaking of Ferrus, for me this bond and respect with Sanguinius is all summed up by one final little moment. After Sanguinius comes to terms with the truth that he misses Horus, the brother that was, mentally accepting he is ready to face him, he no longer needs Ferrus as a guide. And indeed, Ferrus can't take him the whole way there anyway. But even despite that, despite the difficulty, Ferrus says he'll walk with him as far as he can. And for me, that just speaks volumes. That despite his torment, despite his struggle, Ferrus still just wants to accompany his brother as far as he can. Just walk with him, be there for him, while he can. And that one action for me speaks more than words ever could. This entire meeting of Sanguinius and the spirit of Ferrus is the perfect example of the moments that make the heresy so special to me, that make it so impactful. Because for all its grandeur, its galaxy-spanning battles of gene-enhanced demigods, at its heart beats a tale of family relationship, of brothers longing to be accepted. And here we see one of those brothers, willing to transcend the boundaries of death, so one doesn't have to walk to his fate alone. But as always everyone, what do you think? What do you think of this reunion between the Gorgon and the Angel? Was you as surprised as me? And do you think this is truly the soul of Ferrus Manus? Are you surprised that it appears the two Primarchs had a good relationship in life, despite Ferrus's renowned gruff nature? Or do you see it as simply more evidence of the greatness of the Angel? Not his power or ability, but in truth his simply warm nature, his love for his brothers. Is it a mark of respect Ferrus held Sanguinius in, that he would cross any boundary, do whatever it took, to be here at this moment, to be by the Angel's side? And do you think Sanguinius found a piece of comfort that he had a brother to walk with him to that final fateful duel? Is this reunion a definite sign we need to see the two interacting within the Great Crusade? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. A huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.